like a show, like a salt shaker. Shake it like a salt shaker. Bow, bow, bow. Ahoy, me hearties. My soul. Oh, fuck, I got it all on my keyboard. I don't know how I was expecting that to turn out. Cooler than that. Oh well. Okay, so now I've got salt all over me. Delicious. Woo! Okay. All right. So today we are talking all about... Hold on. We are talking all about salt. Yes, I got some good salty questions from our members, from our Patreon patrons this past week. So we're going to talk about salt, yeah, we're going to explore some different questions all in and around salt. So please drop your salty questions in the comments if I didn't get to yours today. And we'll get to it on a future episode of the Nerd Gym live stream. Okay, here we go. Let me share my little slideshow with you. Okay, so here's the questions we are answering today. And I got more than this, y'all, but we're going to dive into these ones here. It is going to be, is salt bad for your health? How much salt should I eat? What about the different types of salt? Iodized salt versus pink Himalayan sea salt, smoked salt, black salt, all the different types of gourmet salts out there, sea salt. We're going to talk about salt and diet. Salt and losing fat is one of the questions I got. Does salt make you fat is one of the questions. And reducing salt. What happens if we want to reduce salt? How do we even begin to do that? So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to first talk about just the big one, the big elephant in the room. Is salt bad for your health? While too much sodium definitely increases blood pressure because it holds excess fluid in the body and that creates an added burden on the heart, sodium is also necessary for healthy, normal nerve and muscle cell function, all these things, your acid balance in your blood, all of these things. So sodium is essential, but of course, too much is bad, okay? So if your doctor has told you to reduce your sodium, listen to your dang doctor, okay? There's a lot of certain medications, certain medical conditions. I am not a doctor, by the way. I'm a sports nutritionist, personal trainer person. So if you have a medical condition that you're wondering about sodium in conjunction with, please see your medical professional, not the chick on YouTube who just blew salt out of a corncob pipe to her intro here. So that is the gist of it. We do need some sodium. Some sodium is essential. Let's talk a little bit about how much and what happens if we don't get enough or if we get too much. All right. So how much is enough or too much? Now the CDC in general recommends that Americans consume less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. Don't worry, we'll talk about what that actually means. The average American eats more than 3,400 milligrams each day, and it's easy to see why. So for example, a Big Mac, 1,007 milligrams. Medium fries from McDonald's, 260 milligrams, and then things that you don't even think of as salty, like Coke, for example. A 20-ounce Coke has 75 milligrams. So it's easy to see how these can add up really, really fast, right? We want to make sure that we are at least aware of the amount of sodium that is in our food. Not only for general health purposes, but also if we are trying to lose weight, there is certain things to consider with that, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. So first, understand what is in your food. This is one of the reasons why I am a proponent of, at least for part of your meal plan, do some home prepared foods to just really get a sense of like, okay, I know what's actually in it. I know what's in it, right? Because when you're purchasing something that is prepackaged, pre-made, a lot of sodium is used not only as a flavor enhancer, but also as a preservative. And that's important to remember. Our relationship as a culture with salt has changed a lot over the years. My family, my grandfather started a company that sells cleaning products and such. And in that warehouse, back in the day, when he started that, there was a salt tab dispenser because it was believed at that time that more salt was essential to good health. In other words, if you were sweating, the idea was you would take salt tabs with your water, because if you're sweating out salt water, you have to put back in salt water, which is not entirely untrue. But again, there's definitely been shifts in how people think about whether or not salt is healthy. And I think the healthiest thing to do for all of our sakes, our mental health as well, is to understand that salt is essential, and that yes, we do go overboard, and there are ways to fix that. So let's get back to it here. All right, so we know that pre-made foods, pre-packaged foods, and fast foods tend to have a lot of sodium. When you go out to a restaurant, when you get takeout, just understand that it's probably going to have significantly more sodium than you would put in it just via table salt at home. So start off by being aware. If you know that one meal is going to contain more than half of the daily recommended allowance for sodium, then maybe consider how you're going to manage your sodium for the rest of the day. So if reducing salt is important to you so that you don't come up with some of the health risks associated with too much salt, and you do opt in for doing a nice fast food meal, and by the way, I am body positive, food positive. If you decide that fast food meal is like your treat for the day and this is where we're going with it, that's totally cool. You just manage the rest of your day so that you don't feel like hot garbage, right? We want to feel good. That's the idea. So super important as we're talking about different ways to reduce sodium. I am not food shaming you for eating fast food. It is just a matter of how do we manage that expectation so that our body can feel its absolute best as we're enjoying tasty goodness, okay? All right. So from there, let's talk about what happens when you have not enough or too much. So this is one of the questions I got. What happens if you get not enough salt or too much salt? Unfortunately, the symptoms are very vague. Like so many other things, this is why you don't want to Google search your symptoms or WebMD your symptoms, because they are super vague and they can be an indicator of many, many different health problems. So by no means do not use this to self-diagnose whether you're getting too much or too little salt. Start by, if you're not sure if you're getting too much or too little, start by really paying attention to what goes in your food and trying to hit below that 2,300 milligrams per day. And then from there, if you're still having any of these problems, see your doctor, okay? But not enough salt, for example, can lead to nausea and vomiting, headache, confusion, loss of energy, drowsiness, and fatigue, restlessness and irritability, muscle weakness, spasms or cramps, seizure, and even coma if we're really low on our sodium, okay? So sodium is super important, but too much, frequent urination is the most common symptom of too much sodium, as well as persistent thirst, swelling in strange places, food tasting really bland, the urge to put more salt on your food, frequent mild headaches, and cravings for salty food. So all of these things can be indicators of, in fact, not enough or too much salt, but they can also be indicators of other health problems. So keep that in mind as you're looking through those and being like, oh my gosh, that's totally me. Don't self-diagnose here. Just be aware that yes, salt in the right amount is good for you. Too much, too little, then we have a problem. Okay. Now the next question I got is iodized salt bad for you? So iodized salt is what you would typically think of when you think of table salt, like this one that I have had in my cupboard forever. Why do these last so long? It's so wild. Okay, so all of these basic table salts are iodized for a very good reason. Now, most people are not going to get enough naturally occurring iodine in their diet. There's naturally high iodine in some seafoods, but very few foods are naturally high in iodine. And iodine is super important for your thyroid. And it is so important, in fact, that I forget which governing body, maybe it was the FDA, maybe it was some different push, but they pushed for having general table salt, something they figured that every American would have in their home and on the regular, fortifying that with iodine. So iodine is added to the salt deliberately. It is not bad. it is good. It is good for your thyroid. This is why for a lot of people who are intentionally changing their diet, they're saying, okay, I want to get off processed foods. I want to have a more natural diet. I want to reduce my sodium. If you are on that journey for yourself, please, for the love of your body, take a multivitamin. I know that a lot of people think that if they start eating healthier in the sense of eating more whole food, eating more fruits, vegetables, that kind of stuff, that they will get more of what the body needs. And this is somewhat true, but as we are making those adjustments, keep in mind that breads and cereals and milks and salts have all been fortified with vitamins like vitamin D and iodine and all these different things that are really kind of essential for human health. A lot of these staple food items that are a staple part of the American diet have been fortified so that you don't get sick. So if you are rejecting those items in favor of whole food, that is totally awesome and cool, and I support you. Just please make sure you're taking a multivitamin to get your bases covered for those essential vitamins and minerals that may have been coming into your body through fortified foods like cereal grains, milk, and iodized table salt. Okay. Back to the screen. All right, so iodine is added to table salt to prevent iodine deficiency. Your thyroid gland uses iodine to produce thyroid hormones, which aid in tissue repair, regulate metabolism, and promote proper growth and development. So there's a lot of really important things that these do. Okay. So what about pink Himalayan salt and other colored gourmet salts? Sea salt, I've seen black salt and smoked salt and all these different things. Now all of these they tend to have a reputation for being healthier, right? They do contain more minerals. That's what gives them their color, is the minerals that are in there. But the minerals do not necessarily make a significant enough impact on your nutrition to make an impact, honestly. And they also are not generally fortified with iodine. So while, again, I am definitely a big proponent of food experimentation, and I personally don't have a palate that's so sensitive that I can taste the difference in different salts, but they do. They sell gourmet salt packs with like different regions and different minerals, and they're super cool, and definitely worth taking a look at and experimenting with and all that kind of stuff. But keep in mind, yes, they are not fortified. Even sea salt, natural sea salt, which is going to contain some naturally occurring amounts of iodine, those amounts vary and are often too low to replace the iodine that is fortified into table salt. So keep that in mind as you're trying different salts and getting fancy with it and getting gourmet with it. Totally awesome. Good for you. Just keep in mind you want to take that multivitamin still. Okay? Okay. So, yes, definitely want to experiment, have fun with it, and take that multivitamin. Does salt make you fat? Okay, so salt absolutely will impact the weight on the scale. The weight on the scale. I'm not talking about your fat loss, okay? So as a sports nutritionist, one of the most frequent questions I get, because a lot of people do come to me for fat loss, is how or if I take out the salt, is that going to speed up my progress? Will I actually lose more fat? Does salt negatively impact fat loss, right? Remember, fat loss and weight loss, two separate things. We often talk about them together, but they are two separate things. Now, as far as actual body fat, adipose tissue that we're trying to reduce our stored fat of, salt will not have a direct impact on that. It just won't. Salt doesn't have any calories. It's just not going to have an impact on that. What it will have an impact on, quite a significant impact, in fact, sometimes, is your weight on the scale. Eating very salty foods retains more water, and water weight in the body is one of the biggest weight fluctuations we see throughout a day. Weight on the scale can fluctuate 8 pounds in a day just from water retention, gastric emptying, all these different things. So salt will definitely make the scale way more erratic. So keep that in mind. A lot of times when people reduce sodium, they see a big drop on the scale, they get excited, they think it's fat loss. And it's good. If you see a big drop on the scale after reducing the salt, that means that you were having some pretty severe water retention, inflammation maybe, all that kind of stuff, and that reducing the salt definitely helped with that. But it's not fat. Now, one sort of roundabout way that reducing sodium may help you with actual fat loss is if the saltiness of the food stimulates overeating. If it stimulates overeating, then it can definitely have an impact. Because remember, how we think about our food, how we taste our food, all these things have an impact on satiety, how satisfying our food is and how we feel about it. So oftentimes salt is one of those things, because it is an essential nutrient, in some ways it can kind of override and make us feel like it taps into that primal part of our brain that seeks out nutritious food. Calorie dense food, salty food was something that was a rare find back in the olden times, right? So finding that or eating that, it does stimulate overeating, which is why so many junk food places and places, junk food companies pack salt into their foods, because it does stimulate more consumption. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So does salt directly impact your weight loss? No, it does not. Directly impact your fat loss? No, it does not. Will it impact your weight on the scale? Yes. Does it have the potential to make you overeat? Yes. So keep that in mind. All right. And then finally, how do we reduce sodium in the diet? Adding spices. All the spices, so good for you. Now, in general, American food is very, very bland. We don't know how to use a lot of the spices that are available to us. So this is worth like a whole other separate thing on, and I am by no means a gourmet chef, but I will pull different spices into my spice cabinet, even stuff that I don't know what it is, try it out, do different combinations. Some of my absolute go-tos are things like garlic and dill and lemon juice and cinnamon and cloves, and there's just so many good spices, things that not only are going to help your general health in their own right, but can easily replace salt. Now that said, if you have not the time nor the energy to go experimenting and trying to be all gourmet with your spices, and then you end up with food that tastes like garbage and you don't like it, and then you end up wasting food. If you don't want to go through that hassle, that's okay. There are tons of good pre-blended spices out on the market, and some of them are intentionally formulated to replace the taste of salt. None of them are going to be perfect. Miss Dash is probably the most famous long-running one of those that has blends of different herbs that are designed to sort of, if you crave salt, to reduce and swap it out, as it were. So yeah, definitely check out the different spice blends that are available to you. Just be aware that some spice blends will have salt or sugar incorporated into them. So you actually want to read what's in there, but try out some different spice blends. If you feel like, geez, I'm not a gourmet chef, I don't, if the idea of playing with spices scares you, that's okay. Go for those pre-blended spices, try them out, and let me know what your favorite pre-blended spice is. I would love to hear from you. I love to hear your questions. If we didn't talk about your salt question today, drop your salty question in the comments. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you want to be aware of when I am coming out with more videos, subscribe, click the bell, all that kind of stuff. But in general, I'm here for you every day answering fitness questions from members of the Nerd Gym. And if you would like to become a member of the Nerd Gym and get access to live online classes, We have classes 6 days per week, nutrition classes, fitness classes, all the good things. You can go to www.thenerdgym.com and join on our Patreon at any membership level to get access to our live personal private Zoom classes. Yes, not open to the public Zoom classes. All right, my friends. Stupid idea. All right. Until then, don't smoke your salt in your corn cob pipe. Don't stick salt in your pipe. I don't know. Tasty. All right. See you later. Bye. Can't find the button. All right.